Hey guys, it's Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, welcoming you back to another live Canadian Q&A. Well, it's an immigration Q&A. It has been 1 week that I've had off, enjoying a little bit of time with my family, and now I'm back to do another live Q&A for all of you. So, what's new? Those of you who are in Canada as visitors who are wondering what you can do to get back to work if you were a worker and are transitioning to a visitor status and now wondering what you're going to do, or people that have been here as a visitor and now have a job opportunity. There's been some significant developments that I want to share with you today. And it's not perfect for everybody, but for many, many people, including employers out there, this development is actually massive. So make sure that you stay tuned in a few minutes, and I'm going to discuss some of the huge, massive benefits that are going to flow to many people in Canada because of this development. So I'll share that with you in just a few minutes. Okay, let's see who's tuning in here. We have, let's see here. We've got Arya says, hey, how was your vacation? And you can see, guys, this is a fancy shirt here. I'm looking here on my screen. I can't tell if you guys are getting this weird kind of a halo off of it, but anytime, apparently you don't wear stripes when you're doing live Q&As. But hey, apparently I do. That's how I roll. All right, so let's see who else we have here. We've got Ralph. Hey, Ralph, it's awesome to see you. Over the weekend, you guys, Ralph, his little nephew, and my little godson, Jaden, had his birthday. And unfortunately, because of the coronavirus and everything, I wasn't able to get up there to see him. But they were so kind to create a little video that Ralph sent to me. And maybe next week I'll share that with you guys, or the next video I'll share that with you guys. But it was so awesome to be able to watch him opening the present that I'd sent up. So this is what it's all about. You know, Ralph and his family, Kai and Bella, are just like family to me now. And they started out as clients, and that's how it rolls with Holthe Immigration Law. All right, let's see who else we've got here. So, Ralph, thanks so much for doing that. Okay, Amna, good to see you. We've got Raul is tuning in from India. That's excellent. Let's see who else we've got here. Faryad is connecting. Payal says, hello, Mark. How are you from India? It's great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see, we got a ton of other people. We've got a bunch of people that are trying to call me, including my mother right now. I guess I should have called her back. She's tried to reach me 3 times here. Oh well, Mom, you're gonna have to wait till we're done this live Q&A. All right, let's see who else we've got. We've got a bunch of hellos. Ravi, I'm doing great. It's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Farshad is tuning in from Iran. Awesome. Hope you're safe and well there. We've got Hero over in Morocco. Mahesh says, hey, hope you're doing good. I sure am. And as always, of course, Ralph, we've got you tuning in from Edmonton. We've got Anbu, is the Miami connection. Great. Zishan's over in Dubai. We've got Saba in Ethiopia. Masood in Dubai. You can see this is really awesome. We're hitting on almost all continents. I love this. Marista, great to have you joining. We've got Miriam is over in Turkey. Great. This is amazing. You know, we've got quite the cosmopolitan international connection going here. All right. Let's see here. Joe says, fully charged as always. I love this stuff. I really do, guys. All right. We've got John up in Edmonton as well. You and Ralph are up there. Talal is in Muscat. Excellent. We've got a great group here. And as I whip through this, what I want you guys to understand today, and we've got this Friends Tech from Pakistan. And Liliana, it's always good to see you connecting from Germany, and a lot of faithful folks. Mexico, Diego, great to have you. So thanks for taking the time to tune in. And I really appreciate it today. So big news, like I said, that we've now just had announced. I'm going to flip over there and show you this big news and talk about it. And then we're going to devote a whole bunch of time to live Q&A. And so from here, I'm just going to shift over to my screen, and you'll see here that there has been a new temporary public policy. Let's see if we can enlarge this just a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit easier. So just a couple days ago, this new temporary policy, public policy, was released. And I shouldn't say a couple days ago. If you look at this right here, you'll see that this announcement was made yesterday, August the 24th, right from Minister Mendicino's office. And you can see here, before I get into it, he says here, Minister Mendicino, we have heard from employers who continue to face challenges recruiting and hiring the workers they need during the pandemic. At the same time, some visitors in Canada may be able to contribute their skills where there are labor shortages. The measures introduced today will now allow visitors to apply for work permits without having to leave the country first. And I hope you guys can appreciate this. This is a big deal because in the past, if you were a visitor, you'd have to run the risk of doing what we call a flagpole, a loop around the pole, going down, presenting yourself to the U.S. officers, saying, look, I'm not really interested in coming to the U.S., but I just need to leave Canada and then re-enter and apply for my work permit at the port of entry. And many, many people would use this as a strategy. Personally, even though I was a border officer, sending someone down to the border and subjecting them to a CBSA officer kind of freaked me out a little bit because I knew anything could happen. Maybe this person in Canada had volunteered to show their employer how good they were at their job, not knowing that that could be considered unauthorized work. Or maybe they had had discussions with the employer, which is my personal favorite, before they ever came to Canada. And so they came on a visitor visa with the intention of working once the LMIA was in place. Well, some border officers take that as misrepresentation. They say, well, the purpose of your entry to Canada then wasn't just to visit, it was to work. And therefore, we are going to send you packing. And that's basically some of the pitfalls that can arise when you go down to apply for a work permit at the port of entry. And many representatives out there, consultants especially, overseas agents would convince people to come as a visitor. Once the LMIA was approved, then send them down to the border, which there's nothing illegal about that. That's a perfectly acceptable strategy from a legal perspective. But the uncertainty that exists at the borders just caused me, immigration lawyer Mark Holthe, former border officer, a lot of anxiety because I just did not know what was going to happen when they went down there. Heck, when I'm crossing the border, I get nervous. I remember back in November of last year, I had written the multi-state professional responsibility exam in the U.S. to get my U.S. Law, to get my call to the U.S. so that I could be admitted to the bar and practice U.S. immigration. And when I went down there to sit the exam, in Canada, we call it writing an exam. And so when I was going through the border, they said, what's the purpose of your entry? I was driving down just for the day down to Helena, Montana to in my Canadian terminology, to write the exam. The officer looks at me like this and he says, to write the exam? And I said, no, I'm taking a test. And he says, what kind of test? And I said, my U.S. immigration test. And you can imagine where that went. So long story short, they sent me in at the border. I had to park. I went in to see the officer. He did the good cop kind of friendly, trying to get me talking technique, which I learned when I was an officer. And so I answered the questions. And as I started to drive in and park, I started to realize, oh, okay, what could I have said that would have, oh, I know. They also said, are you coming for work or for pleasure? Well, taking a law exam is not pleasure. And so I said work as well. All right. And these are things that I know, but you're just genuinely trying to answer truthfully, right? And so obviously I was not going to be taking any jobs in the US. I was not going to be working in the US. But the reality was I was going down to just write an exam or sit the exam, whatever you want to call it. Well, by the time I got out of my vehicle, I realized, okay, these are the two things I said that caused them to have me come in. So I went into the officer and I explained to him, I said, look, I brought in my examination ticket, to show that I was going to write it. And I brought it in and I said, look, I understand what the issue is here. No, I'm not working in the US. I have no intention of working in the US. I practice Canadian immigration law, and many of my Canadian companies have a lot of business in the US. And so it makes sense for me to assist them to do their work permits going down south. So that's why I'm proceeding with this. And no, I'm not writing the test like an instructor who is formulating the exam for all the other lawyers to take. No, I'm actually being examined, right? And so he eventually understood, but he still went out and searched my vehicle like there was anything in it. There was nothing in my truck, but it's very unsettling. So anytime, any agent or consultant or even lawyer directs someone to go down across the border, there's a lot of uncertainty because anxiety builds up. And sometimes you say things that you don't mean, or an officer interprets something that you say in a way that you shouldn't, that you never intended it. And so what this development does is it allows people to not have to go through that process if, and let's just scroll up here a little bit, if they have a valid status in Canada as a visitor. Now remember, anything after August 24th, you can't become a visitor after August 24th, go into visitor status, and then benefit from this policy. It's not possible. You have to have a job offer. So what does that job offer mean? Well, it tells us right below. It's basically the employer has to have submitted, you can see, you submit an application for an employer-specific work permit that is supported by an LMIA or LMIA exempt offer of employment, no later than March 31st, 2021. So it's still a little bit restricted, but understand this is one step forward that opens up a door where in so many situations previously, it just wasn't possible. So the employer, yes, can't just say, hey, I want to hire Mark. He's here as a visitor in Canada. Come join me. The government of Canada says you can do that. No, that's not how it works. What this means is if you have an employer who has a labor market impact assessment, or an employer who's going to hire you in a position that doesn't require an LMIA, but is employer specific. So we have our USMCA, this US-Mexico-Canada agreement. We have intercompany transfers. We have, a number of other work permit options that are employer specific. But if you fit within one of those confines, you can then submit your application from within. And the best part here, if we scroll down here, you can see here that there is a temporary public policy that provides the opportunity for these applicants who meet these criteria, who have had that valid work permit in the past 12 months, to begin working for their new employer before their work permit application has been fully approved. So just to clarify what that means, what this means here, valid work permit in the past 12 months, this means you individuals out there who were on a work permit, and then because of the pandemic, you maybe lost your job, and then there was no LMIA coming, and your employer said, hey, we're not sure if we're going to move forward with anything here. We're going to have to lay you off. And then your work permit expired. And then you had to change your status to that of a visitor. And now you're a visitor, but you did have prior work experience in the past 12 months. Well, for you, this other policy, which is kind of tacked on here, just to fill this perfect situation, allows you to actually start working before your work permit is approved, just from the process of submitting that application. And we've talked about that in the past. So although people say, well, Mark, what's the big deal? This announcement that, people who, to allow visitors to apply for a work permit without having to leave Canada, what's the big deal? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The big deal is that this was something that never, ever existed before. And because of that, it now opens the door and the pathway to potentially expanding other areas, maybe study permits, right? Maybe other temporary applications that you're making. Maybe now it's limited to LMIAs, but maybe there are some other pathways, maybe open work permits for spouses. Maybe there's other things as well that are, well, technically they're already included. So I shouldn't say spouses. If you're here with your spouse and they're on a work permit already in Canada, then yes, you can apply from within yourself. But believe me, this is actually really, really great news. So what are the key factors, the key takeaways? If you're an employer here, you have an LMIA, you want to hire someone, no longer do you have to sit around, well, one, have them take a chance going down to the border or applying online and waiting for that approval to come through, and then having them to leave the country and come back in to apply. Now they can do it all from within Canada. All right. So there's the great news. And please understand, this is a significant development. And we'll see where this goes. This virus, this pandemic is causing our Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada to have to be very creative, to look at new ways of administering the programs. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty proud of my country. I'm pretty excited about these changes. When I look at the border, I look at what's happening south of that border, I look at other countries, how everything is clamping down. It's pretty cool to see that my country is opening the doors and trying to be facilitative in the midst of this craziness. All right, so there we go. That is the big news for today. And although some may feel, what's the big deal? It actually is, you guys. It's a huge shift in immigration policy. All right. Okay, let's see who else we got here. We've got Amit, who's tuning in from Connecticut. Brian's over in Zimbabwe. We've got Mita is over in, Mita is in the Philippines. Excellent. We've got Solomon in Nigeria. Steve in Namibia. We've got Umang over in British Columbia. Excellent. With a big heart. Paulo says, boa tarde from Brazil. Boa tarde to you too. All right, let's keep skipping through here. We'll give a couple more shout outs. Bahamas in the house. Lester, pleasant good afternoon to you too. Mohit, good morning. Those of you who are watching over on the other side of the ocean, who right now it's 1:23, which is probably almost 2 a.m. for you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Algeria, we've got Ethiopia. Just wonderful, you guys. All right. So what I want to do now is I'm going to open up the coffers. And this one, as I've kind of hinted at in past videos, I am now starting to create little bite-sized pieced videos that are designed to help you guys get information regarding targeted topics much easier than trying to sift through a 1-hour live Q&A with Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer. Instead, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, is starting to create separate playlists, and you can start checking these out as I release them, that are short little videos, maybe anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, that teach. They teach bite-sized little pieces, and they're all based on the questions that you guys ask. So those of you who don't get your question answered today, it could be one of two things. One, if I can do this, it could be because, and I'll just turn off Ficker here. It could be because it's a legal question. In other words, you're asking something about you personally that requires me to understand your information, your background, specific facts related to your situation in order to give you proper legal advice that you can rely on. But all this other stuff is all about information. And sometimes the questions asked, sometimes I skip through them because maybe the question is too long or it's something that I can't really address in a live Q&A. It just would take up the whole video. So these tend to be kind of fast and furious, trying to get to as many people as possible because I don't want to leave anyone out, let alone you. And so instead of just me lamenting every time I do a live Q&A how many people I wasn't able to get to, I am now going to start creating all of these little bite-sized pieces. So I'm really excited about that. And then also what I'm going to do going forward, you will see a new playlist that will be called Immigration Nation. And that playlist is where I'm going to be inviting my amazing immigration lawyer colleagues across the country that are all smarter than I am, except when it comes to doing live video streaming. I hold props on that one. But who have unbelievable knowledge and experience that are going to come and join me, talk about themselves, their story, and share insight on some of the most trickiest aspects of immigration that create tremendous confusion for people as you're navigating this crazy world that we call immigration. And I think all of you know what I'm talking about. You'll go to one Facebook channel, you go to one group well, usually a lot of times it's Facebook or it's like a forum, online forum, and you'll have people asking a question and 3 or 4 different answers of people who are adamant they're right. And these gray areas are exactly that. They're gray because it depends on you. It depends on your unique circumstances as to which direction you go and the opportunities that might be available or the pitfalls that might be waiting to swallow you up. So understand that there's a lot of uncertainty within immigration. It's not just black and white. And that's why it's so hard, and you don't see too many immigration lawyers getting on doing live Q&As like this, because there's so much gray area and they don't want to be seen as giving legal advice that then results in you relying upon it to your detriment. But there's information being cast out across the internet all the time for people who are looking for information. And what do you do? Like, who do you trust? So that's why the Canadian Immigration Institute exists. And that's why I've gone out of my way to try to make it available in a way that's easier for you to consume. So watch for this. So cool, so excited about it. And finally, before I get to the questions, the biggest thing that I'm unbelievably excited about is the privilege that I have of stepping into the chair role of the Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section in just about a week. So I will have the privilege of representing all of the amazing lawyers that are affiliated with the Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section. And they are brilliant. There is just an amazing group of lawyers who care deeply, who are passionate about what they do, who champion the cause of the most vulnerable, the marginalized of society. And like I've always said to you guys, my mission within Holthe Immigration Law and the Canadian Immigration Institute and the Canadian Immigration Podcast, my mission is to make it possible for everyone to be able to hire an immigration lawyer to assist them. And I don't think anyone should have to settle for anything but an immigration lawyer. Why should they? So that's the mission. So whether it's creating content like this to help you, to teach you, whether it's creating, I'll just flip my screen over here, the Canadian Immigration Institute page with my courses, which the one that's the most popular out of everyone is the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. Go in here, click on Try for Free. Click on it. The first two modules, which are fully set up to prepare you to know whether or not to waste any money on actually getting ECAs and writing IELTS tests. If you don't have a chance of qualifying in the first place, well, this will help you determine that, or it will help you to determine if you're eligible. And then after that, you can go through and I walk you through the whole process, profile all the way through to EAPR, all the way through to the documents. And it's amazing how many of my consults that I do are people that decided to purchase the one-time payment, the Express Entry DIY course. And it's interesting, when you look in here, I'm going to show you something. If you guys type in EE, and I'm going to back this up, EE, well, interesting, caps lock doesn't seem to be working for me. EEDIY 50, and you click apply like this, it takes off 50%. So there you go, one-time payment. You have access to it, unlimited, as long as you need it to. And that's the ways that I'm trying to go out of my way to create opportunities for you guys to benefit from the assistance of an immigration lawyer. So those are all the cool things that I have going on. Now let's jump to you guys' questions. So let's see what we have here. We're going to jump right here to the very first one. Oh my goodness, you guys are starting with tough ones. Okay, Shrey says, can my wife apply for a work permit while her spousal sponsorship is stuck due to the pandemic? She's outside Canada. This is a great question that I get a lot. The whole dynamic between seeking entry as a temporary resident versus also having a long-term intention to become a permanent resident. And that's really what we're talking about here. So her application's stuck. They're slowly starting to move forward. I'm getting notifications from the government that spousals are starting to move forward, which is fantastic. You know, they had, since the start of the pandemic, almost 13, well, maybe even right around 13,000 spousal sponsorship applications get filed during this time. And for many, many months there was not a lot going forward with processing those paper-based applications. So Shrey here is in a situation where his wife is outside of Canada. They want her to be able to come, but when it comes to applying for a work permit, well, if there's a labor market impact assessment from an employer, then that's a possibility. That they could submit the work permit application to come. There's obviously all of the travel restrictions we're dealing with right now. And like I've said repeatedly, Susan Wood, the immigration lawyer in our office, go back and watch those videos with her. She's our travel restriction quarantine plan specialist. If you guys are thinking about coming to Canada, she's the one you need to book the consults with. But in the case of Shrey here, his spouse, there's nothing stopping her if there's an LMIA or an actual program for her to apply for the work permit. But what happens is an immigration officer will look at the fact that she's got a spousal sponsorship application in the queue. And even though there's this concept of dual intent, which I'll get to in a little bit, that spouse overseas, when they submit that application, has to demonstrate at the same time that they will abide by the temporary conditions on their work permit. In other words, if the work permit expires, that they will be prepared to return home. And that is where it's often difficult. And officers, immigration officers, even though they're supposed to consider dual intent, in other words, I will one day hope to become a permanent resident, but right now I am going to abide by any temporary conditions that are placed on me if I'm allowed to come in as a worker, including going home if it expires. So yes, it's there, but it's really difficult, really challenging. And in most cases, you will see that those applications get refused. And often they say, well, you've got a permanent resident application in the queue. You can wait till that's approved. Heartless, cruel, but it happens. Is there exceptions? Are people allowed sometimes to come in? Yeah, they are. But when it comes to the majority of people, it's really difficult in those situations. All right, so there you can see, that's like a question that could almost become its own little short video. Okay, Amna says, hey Mark, if an application for permanent residence in Canada has been received by the Family Reunification Unit at the IRCC office in London, how long will it take? Like weeks or months? Thanks. Oh, this is a question that when it comes to travel restrictions, I don't believe anyone can answer these questions anymore. We have had reports where in urgent circumstances, they've flipped those things around in under a week, like almost instantaneously. Other times they've languished for months. So I wish I could tell you, Amna, but there is no rhyme or reason for it. London or anywhere else. All right. Okay. Let's see. Burke says, hey, do you have an idea when IRCC will resume issuing passport requests for EE Outland applicants? It's so difficult to wait for an unknown amount of time. Travel restrictions ruined our future plans. I completely understand that, Burke. That is such a common occurrence. You know, I always try to put things into context. Obviously, the simple answer I have is until the travel restrictions are lifted, there isn't going to be this flood of people that they're going to have, hey, come on into Canada. For the simple reason that we still want to practice and maintain social distancing in Canada. And when someone is coming and they have no job, you know, no place to live, they by its very nature have to go around all over the place. And if they've come from another country, even though, yes, we could do COVID testing, we could do all those things, the theory is that when an individual comes, we want to limit how much spread and contact they have with other people. So that's the position of our public health in Canada, to limit that contact with people newly arriving. So immigration takes the position that it's better that you don't come now until this gets sorted out. So that's why we've got the delays. And as far as travel plans being ruined, my heart goes out for you, Burke. You, like so many thousands of other people, I just had a consult yesterday with a woman who is here studying in Canada. And her husband was here as well with her, has an open work permit. But when he went home to deal with some business affairs, by the time he was ready to come back, COVID hit, the travel restrictions were implemented. And even as recently as July, they attempted to allow him in, but the airline refused to board him. And why? Because he doesn't have a job in Canada, which I personally think is like, it's cruel and heartless. So now they've been apart for 7 months when his only fault was leaving the country in the first place. And so this is what we're dealing with. So Burke, you're definitely not alone. Wilkerson, oi, como vai? Good to see you. All right, let's see who else we have here. That's hilarious. Tabor says, hello from the greatest city in Canada, London, Ontario. Let's see if we have something for that. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. How about this one? Yeah, that's probably... Everybody knows, Thor, that the greatest city in Canada is Lethbridge, Alberta. Wow, I don't know how you were so confused. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at this. So Masood says, hey, I'd like to know the significance of the pre-arrival letter in a PNP paper-based application. Which stage does it indicate? Masood, I'll be honest. Yes, it's nearing the end stages, okay? So you're not issued that pre-arrival letter until they've cleared most of the stages. But in all honesty, there isn't any hard and fast rule on that. But the reality is the pre-arrival letter is just their way of saying, hey, it's getting close. Now it's time for you to start looking at all of the amazing supports that are in place to help you settle and establish yourself in Canada successfully. And they are awesome. You guys probably remember, and let me just shift my screen over here. Those of you who are not aware of it, I'm always looking for ways to create value for my clients, always looking for ways to try to find, I'm always dancing around this mic here, ways to add information and help to people as they're navigating this journey. Well, I have here, if I can open it up, I have created a private group called the Canadian Settlement. And there's my mic. We'll pull that down out of the way so people are not distracted by it. I'm going to shift gears here. So this Canadian Settlement Hub is a place that was created for you guys to share your knowledge, to share your experience, people that have landed, people that are on their way coming to Canada. It looks like I've got to let everybody in. I'm pretty open with this one, so I tend to approve all of the folks that that seek to connect. I'm here, so I might as well also show you about the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. And oh my goodness, what are our moderators doing here? It's so awesome. Facebook does not allow this group to get beyond 124,000. Well, it's impossible. It will not break 125. So even though I have 690 people here, I'll show you this. This is kind of funny. So 690 people, I'll show you how insidious Facebook is. Even though usually I don't do this, I'm going to approve all of them. Okay, so 34 members. So I'm going to approve it. I'm going to reset this. So I've approved 34 people to add. And then if I go back to the main site, and I think it's still thinking here a little bit, still sitting at 690. Maybe now is not the time to be showing you the pain and suffering that I have with Facebook. Apparently it didn't take for whatever reason. I don't know why. I just tried to approve them all and confirm. I should probably stop doing this. Looks like it only accepted one. Seriously? Okay, I'm not going to waste any more of your precious questions time with me complaining about Facebook. But the reality is this group right here, Express Entry Law, that was kind of a fun one. Sometimes I'll do fun things in the group. What you don't see up here is what if Express Entry just got canceled? That was a pretty fun one. Anyways, and then it generates a little bit of comments, right? So, but this group is where you can post questions about Express Entry. And those are just some of the examples of the resources that we have available, that I've created to try to help you guys. So, all right, so let's keep moving on here. Okay, so like I said, the settlement group is a good place to get information that relates specifically to settling. Okay. Let's see, lots of good vibes coming through. Thank you for all those positive comments. And we've got a whack of people. Okay, Yumna asked an interesting question. She says, what's your official email ID? Well, Yumna, if you looked at my email inbox, I hate email. Email is where things fall into this big pit and get lost. And it is really hard because of the multiple hundreds of emails that come through that it's hard for me to make sure I don't miss things. So the only way I've been able to control this, and you guys will see this, if you go to my website, there isn't a phone number to call. There isn't an email address for you to type in your email question to. What is there is this, and this is the way that you guys need to connect. It's this right here, and right on this page where the Start Here button is on my Holthe Immigration Law site. So it's holthelaw.com. And then you click on Start Here and it'll take you to the consult page. And that's where you can fill in these individual answers to tell me what kind of a concern or an issue that you have. And then you fill in your information here. Once it's completed here, it goes in, it's locked in. It does not get lost. And our intake process kicks in to make sure we respond as quickly as possible to any requests that you have for consultations or any questions you have about our representation, anything like that. That's where I direct people to, Yumna. And so email, I don't provide that out until after clients then engage us, because I don't want to take the chance that you send in a question and then it just doesn't get answered, right? So that's where we go. I direct you to the Holthe Law site and to book a consult that way. All right. Okay. Good question. All right. Okay. We've got some other questions here. I see also about PRs and the delays with getting those issued from outside of Canada. Okay. Let's see here. We've got Paulo. He says, "Hey, Mark, hello from Brazil. I'm about to get my LOA for the winter intake. Do you think I can have my visa in time?" Oh yeah, that's the question of all questions. I have all the necessary documents ready to go. Those of you who are looking to study in Canada right now are going through just this period of literally tearing out your hair. I know that. The government is still trying to figure out what they're going to do. So as you've seen, there is an ability to start your classes online and to actually take up to 50% of your course load outside of Canada and still get credit for it, both for express entry, both for the obtaining of postgrad work permits. And so when you are considering studying, that is a factor to take into consideration. But I'll be honest, there's nowhere has anyone said that they guarantee your study permit is going to be approved. So there may be a period of, where they're going to do some initial assessments and the stage 1 assessments. That's one indicator that yes, you're probably okay and you're probably going to have a good chance of getting that approved. But what if something happens? Let's say you start the program online and then it moves to in-person. You're waiting for your study permit like Paulo and it doesn't come. So I'll be honest, for me, I put the brakes on it. I say to myself, you know what is the point of trying to come to Canada right now to study when the first half of the program is going to be remote online anyways? Now, you may have reasons to do that, but there's just a lot of uncertainty for me to make me question whether or not that's something that I advise my clients. In many cases, I tell them to hold off, defer, wait a little bit. So in your situation, Paulo, I really can't say. It depends on the travel restrictions. It depends on how well the government does at getting the actual the visa offices, the foreign missions up and running with officers. That's really what it comes down to. And biometrics, right? It also depends on the situation in your own country and the availability of having those biometrics completed. All right. Okay. Okay, here's a good question. Aaron says, "Hey, is there any news about those who lost experience during the pandemic for Canadian Experience class and now just a month gap from qualifying for CEC?" Every 2 weeks, we bring this up in our conversations with IRCC. And we have the consultants, the lawyers, both the English and the Francophone lawyers, Acadie in Quebec. We have representatives from each organization that attends these conference calls with immigration. And that question has come up a lot. We haven't had a decision yet. It would be wonderful if there was a way to somehow allow for that. But at this stage, the answer is no. So we'll keep watching that and we'll see. And what Aaron is asking here, and I keep assuming, I forget not everybody understands all of these nuances, but in order to qualify, the minimum entry criteria for the Canadian Experience class is 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada. Now, there could be gaps, there could be a break, but some people, and this is one of another playlist I want you guys to watch for. I've got 8 videos that I've recorded that I'm just putting the finishing touches on that I'm going to be releasing out. And they're what I called wild tips on immigration. So I've gone on these little adventures into the mountains, and I had this amazing, amazing trip with my sons. Just on Saturday, we climbed this mountain, and I almost decided to do a live stream there for a few minutes because we had reception, but I decided against it. But these experiences all over, where it's the mountains or a beautiful waterfall or just the forested landscape of the wilderness, I do short little 2-minute wild tips on immigration, and I'm going to be sharing those with you guys. But when it comes to this area of the Canadian Experience class, what Aaron's struggling with is some people, they have, and I'm sorry how I get these little tangents going in my mind, but some people decide to take only 1 year to study. And if that's the case, they're only getting a 1-year work permit after. And often there isn't enough time to be able to accumulate the full 1 year of Canadian work experience. Anything could happen. You could be laid off. It could take a while to actually get the job. It could be the pandemic that has forced you to be laid off for a month, right? And all of that can trip up your ability to qualify under the CEC, and it can destroy your whole plan of coming to study in Canada in the first place, right? So that answer, Aaron, you can see there's no positive news at this stage that I can offer, but trust me, if I hear anything, I will let you guys know. Okay, okay, Nagoy says, please post that link, please. I'm not sure which one Nagoy was talking about, but maybe you can identify it a little bit later. All right, let's see here. I'll give Payal a little thumbs up. Very helpful session for visitors. Yes, it is, absolutely. And I try to mix it up, right? These topics are very broad. All right, and going forward, I'm going to dive, and this is something else with these little bite-sized pieces that I'm going to do, these little short little video segments. I'm also going to then devote more time to just the Q&As, and I'm just going to keep them live Q&As. And so people can watch, people can attend these, and they're more rough and tumble. And you can see there's no super high production value. It really comes down to just being helpful, right? So maybe the image, maybe my picture isn't very clear. Maybe I forget to turn off someone's, someone's comments here. Maybe I'm talking like I'm showing you my website and I'm not actually showing it. This all happens, but who cares? That's the Q&A. But the videos are going to be a little bit more targeted, a little bit easier for you guys to actually get the information that you're looking for. Okay. Okay, let's click on this one. So Virpal says, how can we check whether a medical is through? If there is any issue in a dependent's medical, how can we correct it? Okay, so this is a good one. This is where I'm going to actually flip back for those of you who don't know all of the things that I have going on. And I'm going to add in here, immigration, there it is. Okay, so, and then I'm going to flip over my screen here. This is faster here probably. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so right here, you can see Canadian Immigration Podcast. And if you click on here, and then you just type in medical, I think that's probably will work. Let's see if that works. If you type in that and you search it, you will see that there are, there are past live Q&As that I did. Live Q&As. I've got live Q&As on the brain. There are past podcasts that I've done on all kinds of different topics. When it comes to medical and healthcare as it is right now, you can see there's a number of different episodes that I've done in the past on this topic. So I want to point that out to you guys, because what's the point of creating all of this if you guys don't even know it exists? And apparently I do a terrible job of actually explaining that to people, all of these resources that are available. So back to the question that Virpal asked here. How can we check whether the medical is through? Well, and then, if there's any issues. Well, the reality is, when it comes to the medical, it's going to move quite quickly. If there is an issue, often what happens is, because there's no set timeline, if you do an ATIP request and request the Global Case Management System, the GCMS notes, you can often see at that stage if there's any concerns. And so often it appears when, for example, express entry usually takes about 6 months. So if you're past 6 months and you haven't heard anything, sometimes I'll do that ATIP. And now, right now, understand, guys, everybody's applications are being delayed more than 6 months. But in the case of people who have medical concerns, often you won't know until there's been a little bit of a delay and you're wondering what's going on. So you do an ATIP request and it comes back and says, a medical review required. And in those circumstances, what happens is, if there is an issue and they have concerns about a dependent, they will send you what's called a PFL, a procedural fairness letter. And it will say, hey, we think you might have some issues with medical inadmissibility. We are concerned about your dependent, that they may be, if admitted as a permanent resident, may cause excessive demand on Canadian health or social services. And so that's your opportunity to go back to them and say, well, no, for these reasons, we've got a plan in place that we're not going to cause a drain on Canadian health or social services. So that's your opportunity. But I will tell you time and time again, do not respond to that PFL on medical inadmissibility without contacting an immigration lawyer first. It is super complicated. It requires a lot of background research, and you just won't understand or know what they're asking for, right? And that's why hiring an immigration lawyer is so effective in making sure that your dream of Canada is not being shattered because of an officer's determination that your child or even you is potentially medically inadmissible. As immigration lawyers, we are your advocates. We fight for you. We make sure that the decision is correct in law. And if it's not, we challenge it. And there are other options that are available. If things aren't working out, there are other possibilities that we can look at. Humanitarian and compassion applications, which are not something that you just throw together and submit. They're very detailed. They're very legal. And when you actually put the effort in to do the legal research, the case law research, to research everything from country conditions, to accumulate all the documents with respect to establishment in Canada and all these things. So all of those things, understand, come part and parcel with legal representation from an immigration lawyer. All right, let's close that one off. Good question. Okay, let's zip through a whole bunch here. And thank you. Lots of people are posting thank you. And I'm not posting you up here, but know that I'm reading your comments and I appreciate it. Okay, here's a classic. You can't go by without answering Rami's question. What do you think about the cutoff for the next FSW draw? All right, let's have some fun. Let's jump back here again and let's go to our page. And remember, guys, if you type in EEDIY 50 right here, I don't know if I can even back it up. Maybe I can. If you go here, you express entry, folks, and you type in EEDIY50, it's not in caps, but it works either way, and click apply, you get access to the course at 50% off. Okay, so it looks like I've messed around with that a few times and it's not working properly, but trust me, there it is. It was just taking a little while, $248.50. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go back here, and the question, once again, is what do you think about the cutoff time for the draws? Let's take a look at this because I just had this discussion, and we'll search up rounds of invitations here, and I'm going to now flip over and share my screen. There, okay, and you can see here, if we go back to the rounds and we search, what do we think the cutoff's going to be? So there's a cycle, and if you watch it, rotating draws is what we've got. At least this is what it appears to be. So we just had our Canadian experience, 454. It seems like that's kind of the sweet spot where we're hanging out. Then if we go back and we look at the previous rounds, you guys can see here that provincial nominee was before that. And then kind of an anomaly. I don't take this 159 as something that's going to happen frequently. In fact, we usually only have 2 federal skilled trade draws. And there were only 250 people that were extended invitations. So no program specified. When did that happen? The beginning of August. So my belief, at least based on this system, and let's keep going back. So open, no program specific, Canadian experience class, provincial nominee class. No program specified, Canadian experience class, provincial nominee class. Okay, do you guys see that? So this, no one knows. So anyone who says, oh, I've got it all figured out, don't believe them. Because immigration will do whatever they do. But provincial nominee class, what comes after it? So federal skilled trades is anomaly, but no program specific, provincial nominee class, and then the most recent one that we have right now, which was the Canadian experience class. Well, what do you think is going to come next? So as I look at this in the rounds of invitations, I think 162 is going to be no specific category. It's going to be open. And then if you look at the totals, the last one we had was sitting at 476. Now here's the deciding factor. And usually I don't take too much time to go into depth with this, but the question was asked, so I'm going to try to answer it. If you go back and you look at the previous pool totals, so you can see the number of candidates. These are PNPs, so they were probably 462 were probably drawn out in the last PNP, but there could be more. As of August the 18th, that was right before this last draw right here. So right before 3,300 Canadian experience class candidates were drawn, there were these people in the pool. And so we know if the pass mark was 454, you know, the individuals that are dipping right down into here, you can see the numbers. So if it's an open draw And we have people from 471 to 480 that are already at 4,302. I personally don't see how it could drop below 471. So it has to be above that. And if we look at the total numbers here and you add this up right here, yes, some of these will have been pulled out in the last draw. So there is a number of these people that could very well have been pulled, okay, that were Canadian Experience class but had a really high CRS score. But even if we said, okay, they weren't, and you look at the totals, it's got to be, in my bet, probably no lower than probably I would say 473. That's my guess. 473 for the next draw. It could be more, but 473 is probably the range that that I would shoot for, at least in my mind, I think. Okay, all right, let's keep zipping through here. We've got a few more. I'm gonna check my phone here quick. It's unbelievable how many emails I've received from the time I started doing this. And I'll also just remove Rami off of here, who had that great question. And I'm just going to take a quick peek at my calendar to realize that, yes, I have a big express entry EAPR review in 2 minutes. So with that being said, okay, this is perfect. Okay, this is someone I'm gonna reach out to Maji here. Mark, please don't ring the bell. Please, is the other parent authorization mandatory if he just has visitation right on his children? Please say just yes or no. Maji, in terms of visitation rights, I need to actually look at the separation agreement. I need to look at the custody agreement. I need to review this, my friend. And I know you say, no, please don't do it, but I'm going to ring the bell for you. And we're going to wrap it up with this and tell you, go back and book a consult, and I can actually give you the authorization. Like, I can give you direction that you can actually rely upon. Questions like this that are specific to your situation have so many other facets, and it would be reckless and negligent of me if I provided a specific answer that you relied on, and then immigration came back and said, we don't have the parent authorization form to allow that child to travel, and therefore we're refusing your application, right? I will not, and I refuse to be responsible for that. But if I know your situation, I'm able to figure out your facts, Maji, then I'm comfortable with giving you a legal opinion that you can actually rely upon. And that is the difference between hiring a consultant and a lawyer. If that legal opinion is wrong, then you have recourse to contact the Law Society and seek damages for professional negligence if the opinion that you were given was wrong. All right. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to be jumping, like I said, over here in 2 minutes. Those of you who have gone out of your way to post questions and I have not been able to get to them, there were a lot today, understand that I go through here. Your questions are not wasted. They're not just going to disappear, because the ones that I see the most frequently are going to form the very next live, well, not live, but the videos, everything from my wild tips on immigration to just helpful tips to help you manage all aspects of the Canadian immigration process. So one thing I want to finish off with here, if I can find it, is, let's see if I've got this. I'm going to share this with you guys if I can. And I'm going to finish off with this at the end as I transition to, and this should come through hopefully. There it is. I'm going to open this, and I think I can put this right on my screen. And this is what I'm going to end with. So thank you so much, guys. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody who's been so patient, who's come and joined these live Q&As on the other side of the world, and who's really made this the success that it is because of the good questions that you ask. So I'm going to pull this out if I can now, if I can grab it. Yes. And then I'm going to share a little adventure that my sons and I did just on Saturday. I can't remember even what's said in this video, but I'm going to post it anyways, in the tops of the Rocky Mountains. So this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off. Wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Canadian immigration. See you on Thursday, same time. All right, so, video. And about halfway through. How was it?
It was good. Just about as long as I thought it would be.
Yeah?
My feet hurt.
There's our destination right there. We're just about home. Good hike. I'll see if I can make it, but I probably won't be walking too well tomorrow.